So Lisa and I are just going to have a lovely little chat with you to talk about menopause and kind of preparing us for the emotional changes, the physical changes, talk about symptoms, how we can relieve some of those. My group, Lisa, they know me quite well for popping on, and I kind of talk about physical symptoms and stuff a lot and how I can help support relieve those through acupressure, reflexology, massage, aromatherapy. But your background is fascinating, and we talked about perhaps talking a little bit about mindset and emotional changes and preparations that we might want to think about, even in the menopausal stage before menopause hits, and kind of preparing you for it, or even if you're at that stage in your life right now.
Yeah, I think one of the important things that kind of we should be saying is that there's kind of a misconception that menopause and perimenopause, which is before the menopause happens, that that kind of doesn't happen until your late 40s.
Yeah.
But actually it can start in your late 30s. Don't want to scare anybody, but you can start to get those symptoms, and the symptoms are so far reaching that quite often they get misdiagnosed for something else. So that's kind of the sort of work that I do, is to kind of raise awareness that actually, you know, if you've got a rash, that could be one of the symptoms. If you suffer from cold sweats, not necessarily hot flushes, they can be a symptom as well. And hair loss is a symptom which people don't always realise. So when you start to get that in kind of your late 30s, you really don't put two and two together. And a lot of doctors don't, because a lot of doctors, unless they've got an interest in female health, don't understand that, and are just very quick to kind of send you off with a pill or a potion.
Yeah, we know that all too well. And I don't like, when you think about the list of symptoms that could potentially be because of menopause, you know, it's a pretty big list. Let's be honest. But I think you could read that entire list and think, shit, you know, us women, great, this is what I have to look forward to. But actually, I think if we understand that it is due to losing a huge amount of estrogen, but our body changing how we get our estrogen, and that it's still going to be producing estrogen, just a lot less. We just need to find natural ways to help us stay hormonally balanced as much as possible. And there are so many things that we can do to help with that. And I don't think, you know, we realize enough the effect that the lack of estrogen has on our bones, and the density of our bones, and the fact that women are so much more at risk at getting osteoporosis. So it's a bit like, you know, when you want to get pregnant and you start thinking way before, even when you're trying, you think, right, I'm going to start taking my vitamins and minerals. That, you know, in our 30s, before we get to that age or stage where we're going to start losing estrogen levels, we need to be thinking about calcium and vitamin D and magnesium to really support our system, so that when we start naturally losing our estrogen, we're already in a good habit of topping ourselves up with those things to start off with, and our body is already kind of prepared in that way. So I wanted to say to the women in my group that calcium, vitamin D and magnesium are key at helping prepare ourselves for that change in estrogen drop that you're going to experience. And it was very interesting, because I did some research before this. I'm not sure what you know of this, Lisa, but I did some research before, and that actually, if you take a spray for your vitamin D and your calcium and your magnesium instead of a pill, it's really, really effective. It's faster. Your body absorbs it easier through your mouth if you use a spray. And I've never used a spray before. I've always just taken additional capsules. So I found that interesting.
Right. Okay. That is interesting because HRT, when that is actually prescribed by the doctor, a lot of those are gels that people rub on, aren't they? On the inside of their legs. So yeah, so that is, and there is definitely a movement, because last month we had a specialist doctor who was who came to speak to our ladies, and that was one of the things that she was very much advocating, was about topical application rather than an oral application. So we're not then putting pressure on those extra hormones in our body when we're digesting, you know, those vitamins.
That's
Yeah, so
interesting.
that's it's very interesting. And she is a GP as well, but she has private practice specializing in the menopause. So yeah, so she was extremely interesting, and that was definitely what she was advocating, to move away from that kind of pill popping.
In the aromatherapy world, so for those interested in this group, we love our essential oils in here.
Mine
and
on at the moment.
yeah,
I have mine diffusing again, lavender and tea tree again.
I love them. I love them. And one particular recipe for supporting leg cramps, managing pain management and cramping, which is also another symptom. A lot of women find relief by using clary sage. And what you would do is put your clary sage in with your carrier oil, and you would rub that onto your legs before going to sleep. And that's supposed to help relieve the cramping. So clary sage is a big one on the list, ladies, too.
Absolutely, absolutely. So, Dr. Louise Newson, I don't know if your ladies know of her. She is she's a doctor who specialises in the menopause, and she is kind of gathering a bit of a following. And last week or the week before, she brought out an app called the Balance app. And on there, there's lots of suggestions for. So if you do get things like leg cramping, which is it is actually, that is a massive symptom. That is something that a lot of people, one of my friends in particular, suffers with that, especially at night. So there are exercises on the Balance app, and then you become part of an experiment. So the exercises that other ladies have found that have helped, and then you log on to the app and then report your progress. So then we've got some proper quantitative, if you like, some proper quantitative research to be able to pass that information on to others of exercises that have worked. But there's all kinds in there for hot flushes, all kinds of ideas. So it's a Balance app, Dr. Louise Newson, and obviously it's free. So yeah, and I highly recommend it, because you can and this is the other thing really, because when you're in perimenopause, so that's the stage before, so you're menopausal when your periods actually stop, but you can be perimenopausal 10 or 15 years beforehand. So when the estrogen starts to drop and your hormones start to kind of fluctuate, that's when the symptoms can start. But as you say, you don't always realize that, but actually that app allows you to track them. So that's really, really good, because one of the symptoms of menopause is brain fog. Oh my goodness, brain fog can just be quite and quite scary for some ladies. I actually know a doctor, an actual GP. She doesn't specialize in women's health, but she actually got her colleague to test her, thinking that she had dementia. And her colleague just said to her, "You do realize it's probably just menopause. You need HRT." And she's like, "Oh my gosh." And she'd completely missed it. She was 46. So, where there's this kind of idea that you're 50, 51, 52, you're not always. But that app is really, really good for tracking the symptoms.
That's a really good one. It's a bit like tracking your periods, isn't it? Like a period calendar, but doing it for menopause.
Yeah, but it's all kind of and it's all the symptoms. There's a big list of symptoms there. So kind of, from 1 month to another, you might kind of forget how and when and what, but that brings it to your mind and makes you aware, really, because you've got to tick the little box. And so you start to get sort of a proper track. And then when you go to your GP, you've got a proper record to say, well, actually, I don't need antidepressants. I am menopausal. So, yeah, so it really
and
helps.
that's it, isn't it? Because, you know, it can be quite a low hormonal phase in life with feeling more anxious or depressed. We're mumming and living at the same time today. Yes, darling. What were we saying? No idea. I've got brain fog. What were we talking about? Brain fog.
You were talking about brain fog.
I was going to say, we were talking about the emotional struggles and the mindset that we might want to think about for ourselves.
Yeah, absolutely. So I know that you did a lovely live earlier on this week about trauma and how our body stores trauma, and our minds in particular. And kind of, so if we haven't dealt with that stuff, by the time you get to menopause, it kind of throws it. So this is the analogy that I use for my clients. It's like we have beliefs about ourselves that are like a paper cut. And they usually come in childhood, and nobody does that deliberately, but they're just things that we are just taught as children. And usually, actually, our parents do it subconsciously. So we end up with these beliefs about ourselves, and then all of our experiences through our lives, it's like sticking a plaster over it, and then a plaster of Paris. And we're just kind of, because every time one of those experiences happen, it throws open each time that wound from that paper cut. And then by the time we get to menopause, it's like rubbing salt in it, but we've got plaster of Paris around it, and it's really difficult because we've got so many people that we're bending and shaping to please, and we've got so many people who all through our lives have told us they know better than us, and what's best for us. Everybody else knows what's best for us, and we stop trusting ourselves. And we kind of, that's where anxiety tends to come from, where we're just not aligned with kind of what we believe is in our best interest. But because there's so many other people, all with additional needs, and we have so many demands on our time, we kind of lose ourselves in that, and we don't understand who we are anymore, if we ever did. So it kind of throws that open. By the time you come to menopause, it's that, that stage of fertility is drifting, possibly. Your fertility is drifting, your usefulness and your perceived usefulness is probably not the same as it once was. And also, we tend to be the sandwich generation. We've got young children and we've got older parents that we're looking after. And we really are, if you like, if our self-care was a bucket, it's not running over, shall we say, with self-care. It's absolutely not. It's running over and tipping over with troubles and responsibilities.
Absolutely. And just learning and being able to say, no, I've done my social this month, my one social. I only have time for this right now because it's important for me to have time for myself with my family, or, I don't want to say yes to so many occasions and things to do. I was having a chat with a close friend of mine the last time I saw her, and we said the same thing, actually, once a month is enough for me to say yes to something, and then for the rest of the time I want to enjoy peace and time with my family and to myself when I can find it. So I think when I did my video the other day and I was talking about the trauma that we've stored, stress over the years, it's compound. It just keeps adding and building. And just being able to say no and put yourself first and be aware of what your body's doing, that your body can actually store and memorize trauma or stress. Just even being aware of that fact alone, you can just you know, be a lot more conscious to what you're saying yes to, what you're allowing into your energy, into your space, the time that you're giving to things. Because, you know, we need to just put ourselves first. And I think out of anything that we discussed tonight, with any of the symptoms or oils that you could use to help relieve things, or vitamins or minerals you could use, or massage techniques, anything, the point is, out of all of that, all of those things, it's you finding time for yourself to do those things.
Absolutely. So just to go back to your point about stress, so we suffer from stress when we've got a belief about ourselves and we're trying to, or we're being pulled in a direction that kind of either goes against that belief or keeps reinforcing it. So that's kind of where that comes from. And then we suffer from stress because we just kind of, you know, we're not aligned with that. We're not aligned with whatever it is that we believe about ourselves and whatever it is that we're then asked or forced to do. But the second thing is, it's really, really important that self-care, and we understand that self-care is an essential. It absolutely is not a luxury, because, you know, we've all got smartphones and mine's just here now and it's plugged in, and I plug it in every single day, and I don't expect it to work if I don't plug it in. But for a long, long time, I expected me to work without ever recharging me. Absolutely weeding out on your to-do list what you absolutely is essential to keep you and your family alive, and letting the rest of it go. And sometimes you do just have to be, because we're human beings, not human doing. And it's really important that we start to understand that, and we start to think of ourselves like our mobile phones.
You said something fantastic the other night. Your approach to hypnotism. Go and tell everyone about you know, how we
yes,
you know,
I do. So I'm a hypnotherapist, and something that people are absolutely fascinated about is what's it like to be hypnotized. Well, I say you live most of your life hypnotized. I actually dehypnotize you and bring you into awareness. And what I mean by that is, how many times have you driven somewhere and not remembered the journey? Now, if you get a speeding ticket, you'll absolutely remember every aspect of it, because it absolutely wasn't you that got the speeding ticket. Actually, do you remember? Because we don't. It happens to us all the time, doesn't it? We put things down, we don't remember where we put them, and people tell us things, we can't remember the full ins and outs of the conversation. We know that we sent somebody a message, but we have to go back and double check when that was and what we actually said, because we live in this hypnotic state most of the time. We're not in the moment. And the therapy they do brings people back to that moment, and brings people into awareness and makes them aware of what they're kind of what they're doing at that time and what their thoughts and feelings are. We either live in the past, or we live so far in the future that we just forget the present. Sometimes people suffer from stress and they don't actually realize that that's what's happening. They have the symptoms of it, but they just don't realize what's causing the symptoms. So sometimes, you know, they'll explode in anger or frustration, and they won't actually realize that they're stressed, and it's something that's, you know, unhealed in them that's causing that kind of reaction. So sometimes people don't even realize that that's happening. But yeah, so that's one of my self-care tips, is because if you're feeling low and you're scrolling through social media like that, you can be triggered and triggered and triggered. And we always, you know, you did a lovely talk about it the other day, the words and pictures that we use cause a chemical reaction within our body. So if we're scrolling through and we see pictures and we use words like, why is my life not like that? Why do my thighs not look like that? Why does my house not look like that? That then, you know, brings a picture into your mind, and it's a chemical reaction. So, you know, it's a serious suggestion. Sometimes you need to maybe delete Instagram. Sometimes that's, you know, oh, not forever, just for now. But sometimes that's what you need to do.
And give yourself a break from it. Absolutely.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah.
There are, because obviously I'm a bit biased, but I go on about the effects of reflexology. And actually, reflexology is known for really supporting menopause because it's just so powerful at helping rebalance your endocrine system, all of your hormones. And there are specific massage moves and techniques that I would do on you if you came to see me for a reflexology treatment, or any reflexologist in your local area. Specific points and techniques that would be stimulated that really do help improve, alleviate pain, night sweats, hormonal balance, anxiety, feeling of just general wellness, as well as pain, cramping, and all the other things that are on the list. If you have a look at the list of symptoms for menopause, and I'm not going to show all of those points today because we're having a lovely little chat tonight, but I have done in the past in this group a women's health reflexology routine on my own foot. But what I'll do is I'll reshare that in the group so that if ladies want to have a look at it so they can learn how to do those techniques on themselves, they can have another look at that video, because I've already shown some key moves for that. But reflexology is also another fantastic therapy to help aid and relieve menopause, as well as yoga. And I wanted to talk about yoga because it's something that I just don't do enough, and it's on my goal all the time to do daily, to add into my routine, to try and do a little bit more. And it's just one of those things I put off, and it's like, you're making excuses, Sam. You could make more of an effort. You could do more stretches, and it's so powerful when opening up your pelvis and supporting your circulation and your flow. So that's perhaps something else that you can be doing for yourself more regularly. And it's something that I need to improve and work on. Yeah.
Absolutely. So ordinarily, I would have my yoga mat here next to me. I don't have it today because I used it on wet grass this morning. So it's actually over the line. Right. And my floor in here, so I didn't want to bring it in where it was muddy. But yeah, I have my yoga mat now. Since lockdown, I haven't had my usual teacher, and she hasn't done it by Zoom. So it's my version of a vinyasa flow. So I won't be sharing that with anybody. I have no qualifications, and I just do, what I feel. But yeah, do you know what? It really, really does make a difference. And I've noticed a difference even in my posture, and I've probably only been doing it for about 12 months properly. I've dibbled and dabbled through the years and come and gone, and teachers have left and I've not kept up with it at the gym. But I've definitely, and I've noticed a difference actually not having a professional help me with my downward dog.
Yeah.
Say, but yeah, absolutely. It is an absolutely, because if nothing else, it gives me that. And I probably only do it for 20, 25 minutes maybe, but it gives me 20, 25 minutes where I'm concentrating on my breathing. So I can't think about anything else. And it just gives me a chance to get rid of kind of all of that noise, that other noise that's going on in your mind, and those words and pictures and things that you're saying to yourself, because I have to concentrate on what I'm doing, because a little bit older, I don't want to do myself an injury. But if I could just go back to your point about reflexology, and I think I told you the other night, so my friend is a reflexologist as well. I had been going to my GP for 4 years before I was diagnosed as being perimenopausal, and it was actually her reflexology and the reaction that I had to a point that she went to, that she said to me, there's something imbalanced in your ovaries, there's something going on in your womb, you need to go and speak to somebody about it. And that's kind of that. And I'd been going for 4 years with all of the symptoms that were on the form, but not actually recognizing it myself. And I was even saying, I think there's a bit of a cycle to it, and I think it's not dramatic to say I was suicidal at times. So kind of, it was serious and it was still being overlooked. So, reflexology, I can't say enough wonderful things about it, really, because I think without having those reflexology sessions and her pushing me to do that, I really seriously don't think I'd be here today.
Oh, honestly, so I've heard so much feedback from people who have similar stories where, we're not to diagnose as reflexologists, and we don't diagnose, but that doesn't mean we can't say, I'm just making you aware that this particular area or reflex is feeling a little bit tense. And if you want to go and ask your GP about that and find out some more information, then you can. We can always offer that advice. And so many women have gone and done that, having had reflexology sessions, and then discovered that very issue or a similar issue or something. And I think what's important to say with that is it's quite obvious to everybody. We are connected from head to toe, and all of our circulatory symptoms are circulation, blood, lymph, endocrine, hormone, the transport system that delivers everything to wherever we need is full body. And there is no more effective areas on your body to stimulate and access those nerve endings and your nervous system than through your extremities. So your head, your hands, and your feet, because of the tens of thousands of nerve endings that are in those areas, which is why, you get your feet done and you get your head done, and it feels amazing, and you're able to, increase your happy hormones and get your endorphins, topped up. And when you're going through a massive change and a huge decrease in something like your chemicals and your estrogen, your mood will change, but it doesn't have to be permanent, and it is something that you can manage, and it is something that you can work on. And if you do feel that you need extra support, then a GP may offer antidepressants if your mood does swing low. But with swinging low, there are always periods of time when you're swinging high, and I think just being able to have that mindset of this change is happening, I know it's going to happen, and there are ways that I can do activities, take part in therapies, do things for myself that make me feel good, that I enjoy doing. And if you're not experiencing menopause yet and you're not in that phase of life, like for me right now, I'm not there yet, nor am I experiencing perimenopause, but I'm trying to figure out what I like. I'm trying to figure out, do I like yoga? Do I like Pilates? How are essential oils working for me? What are my favorite scents? What is good for me? How can I improve my diet? And doing all of those sorts of things now, so that when I get there, I already know the answers. I already know, how to look after myself when I get to that stage. And it's fascinating to discover all of these different natural remedies and ways to look after yourself.
But I'm quite happy to come back and deliver that, and to kind of give some exercises and some indication of how we can find these beliefs and what we can do to challenge them, and how we can reinstall some new positive ones for the life we live and the life that we want to live. And we can do that, and if we do that before we enter the perimenopausal stage, we're setting ourselves up. So just like taking the hormones, just like taking and preparing, where we take vitamin D. So I've been taking vitamin D and magnesium and omega oils for the last 10 years. So setting yourself up, and so you're ready for it. And I think mindset is a massive part of that, because otherwise, by the time you come to have these changes, it really does begin to feel quite catastrophic at times.
I'd love to have you back and to do that. That sounds really lovely. Thank you. No, seriously, Lisa, that would be brilliant. I think we'd really love that. For ladies, give us a hashtag replay. If you have any questions, if you listen to this later, and some more questions come up, maybe around symptoms or other things, pop a question in the comment box, because Lisa's in our group, so we can always comment and reply back. And one more thing I want to say before we go, because this is fascinating too, that we're perhaps not always aware of. Our body will drop and decrease huge amounts of estrogen. That's what we're feeling and experiencing during menopause. However, your body still produces estrogen, just not from your ovaries anymore. It starts producing the estrogen from your adrenals. So it uses other hormones that it converts into estrogen. So our bones still need estrogen to be healthy and to function. And we still need the estrogen. It's a different part of the body that's going to be producing it for us. And the reason why I wanted to bring this up is a lot of my clients and a lot of women in this group, they hear me talk about our adrenals and kidneys a lot, with dehydration, with lack of sleep, stress, and our kidneys and adrenals are already working overtime just for normal life. They're already working overtime. And then when we go through menopause, they're now going to have to do another job and to try and make estrogen for us too. So that's why when we had that lovely chat at the beginning of this call about finding ways to say no, find time for yourself and cut out what might be causing you stress, and to make sure you are giving yourself more time to sleep and you're drinking well and you're eating well and all of those things, which I know is easy to say and it's hard to do. And my routine, I'm getting better. It's not great, but if we can do those things for our adrenals, when our adrenals are having to then make estrogen for us, they're going to thank us.
You see, and absolutely, and this is the thing, isn't it, really? Menopause is such a natural process, and our body has got everything. We have the drop in estrogen because we're no longer expected to reproduce. So kind of our bodies know what they're doing. The problem, our bodies know what they're doing, and they're kind of, evolution, they're probably 100 years behind how we're all doing, 2 jobs, 3 jobs. We're looking after older generation, younger generation. And so, this 21st century life is kind of, so as much as we can kind of manage that and manage what we take on. So that's why that self-care is such an essential part, because our bodies, if we do look after ourselves, our bodies will take care of the rest. It's when we don't, or we don't feel able to, or we believe something about ourselves that stops us and sabotages us, that's when we start to kind of hit trouble. So I know myself, when I don't drink enough water, I immediately start to get a headache, because the dehydration is quite kind of immediate. Now, I never used to know that. I used to pop migraine tablets, but actually it just wasn't that. I just hadn't drank enough water during the day, but I just had no awareness of that, and just a migraine tablet was easier because I needed to go and do. Actually, do you know what? Sometimes you just have to stop and just think, well, actually, what is my body telling me here? And when you're tired, and no, we can't always. And sometimes we, and the other thing when you're in menopause is that you get to bed and you've been tired all day, and then suddenly you're ping and you're awake. So that's why I've got a sleep expert coming to see us. Yeah. But if we've already got a great bedtime routine, and we already have switched off social media an hour before we go to bed, and we have blackout curtains, and we have the room at the proper temperature, and we've been hydrated through the day, if we already have a great sleep routine, then there's no reason why at menopause that should then be blown out the window. It's only blown out the window when we didn't have it to begin with.
Absolutely. Couldn't agree more, Lisa. And on that note, I'm going to have to look after myself and my son and get him to bed and sort us out.
Go and watch Peter Rabbit.
Yeah, get a good night's sleep.
I just heard that lady.
Did you just hear her late? She just said Peter Rabbit, didn't she? It's so lovely to meet you, Lisa, and thank you so much for coming on and just talking with us. It's been an absolute pleasure. I've loved it.
Thank you so much for having me. It's been a pleasure for me. Thank you.
And as I said, ladies, if you have a question come up, put a comment in and we'll pick it up over the next couple of days. And yeah, thank you very much, guys. And
thank you.
We'll see you soon.
Lovely. Thank you. Bye, everybody.